So your guy.
All set, Mr. Chair.
Okay, with that, I would like to call the regular meeting of the Genoa Charter Township Board of Trustees to order at 6:30 p.m. I would ask that everybody stand and join me for the invocation, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing everyone here safely tonight and ask that your divine wisdom and understanding help guide our discussions and decisions as we do the people's work. We pray for the safety of all of our servicemen and women currently in harm's way, and also seek compassion for civilians caught in the conflict. We ask that you bless this meeting and all in attendance as we strive to honor you with our actions. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please remain standing for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I get a roll call, Clerk Susie?
Sure. Walker. Here. Reiber. Here. Hunt.
Here.
Valenti.
Here.
Ovarder.
Here.
Susie here. Spire.
Here. Wow.
You got it right.
Okay. With that, at 6:31 p.m., I would like to open the call to the public.
Hello. I'd like to first apologize for not being prepared. I ran in here at the last minute, so I apologize for throwing that at you. We've had some illness in my family. I have some questions. I'm a little confused. I was on a board, and everyone's a member of the board. Is that correct, except this gentleman on the end? Are you a member? Are you an elected official to the board? Mr. Joseph, and what is your role?
I am the township attorney.
Okay, and do we pay you every time you come here?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so I was on the House School Board. We never got to have an attorney there every time. We were governing a 167 square mile district, and we were expected to be accountable for what came out of our mouth without counsel there. So what do we pay you an hour to be here? It's a valid question, sir. I really would like to know, because that's my tax dollars. I'm paying you. And I didn't get that luxury when I was on the school board. I'm just understanding why, as a township, we can afford that, and that seems to be okay.
So in general, call to the public is strictly you
Okay,
expressing your
then
opinion.
we'll move on to the next subject.
Please do, thank you.
The next subject is I have been here 30 years. I've lived here. I have fought my taxes for 25 years. I know that, not this board, but the previous board knows me because I come in and discuss it. I also have been a realtor since the 80s, on and off. I came to get this piece of paper here that you guys are handing out, helpful hints for board review of appeal. You will not accept a mortgage appraisal. You will not accept like different houses that are similar to yours. The list of things that you won't accept are the only things that anyone would be able to use. Who is giving you the information that this is an acceptable and legal practice? This is very excessive and unfair to the people of this township that you might as well just put a big no there. I have gone so far as to go to the state tax tribunal and win and have you guys refund me money. This is excessive and ridiculous. I don't know who wrote it up, but this is not fair to the people of this township. We have a right to come in here and say, hey, wait a minute. I understand, you guys have to have money for the budget, but there has to be some fairness. And you can't just make legal, this isn't a governing body of judges. You all have to look at the information and come to a decision. But when there's no information you'll accept, I have a serious problem with that. And I haven't had time to research it enough, but just for me coming all these years and going to the tax tribunal, this is outrageous. And the third thing being, I did not get a chance to look at the packet, but I'm assuming that everybody has decided they deserve a raise. And when I was on the school district board, I got $30 a meeting. I didn't even think I was going to get paid, and I didn't care. It was an honor to serve, okay? I don't assume that you should do everything for nothing, but I think you need to take into consideration your first year was not a banner year. We lost Our first clerk, we had one for 38 years. She couldn't even last a year. You had her do a perp walk out the door, and then everybody speaks up on her behalf. That's shameful. That's not
if you wanna
right.
wrap it
She
up, it's,
deserved more
it's
respect than that. I
6:35.
don't even know what happened. I didn't read anything. All I know is I didn't like what I saw, and I didn't think it was fair, and I didn't think it was right.
Okay, we're limited to 3 minutes.
There
and
you
You've
go.
done your 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
Susan Nichols, 4935 Fairways Drive, Brighton, Michigan. So I know I brought this up at the last meeting, and I really do have a hard time with the raises because $75,000 was taken out for compensation. I know it's about the wording, but it came out of the taxpayers, our money, you know, and I just think that 75,000 equals 6.2% of the salary budget. And I struggle with that because now you're also asking for a raise on top of that. And I just have to ask, is this fiscally responsible? And I'm not sure, you know, I come here, I'm not speaking just for myself. I'm speaking for my friends who can't be here. I'm speaking for my neighbors who can't be here. And, you know, does the public know that we pay our admin staff, 4 people, $500,000 with compensation? That's a lot of money. And it's not like I think, like Deb said, that you should work for free. I'm not asking that. But I think that when my insurance went up $2,600 this year, I had to pay for it. That's a lot of money. And so I'm just asking that our township also be fiscally responsible and think about your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Good evening. Mark Parker, 4668 Summer Ridge Drive. I didn't have anything specific. I'm going to be moving next week, and so I won't be coming to the meetings anymore. And I just wanted to thank all you collectively as a group for the education I've received while I've been attending for the last 6 months or so, and for the interactions that I've had individually with some of you at various events that has been sponsored by the board, such as the Coffee and Cops and the scam awareness program that was hosted. And so being on a board can be a thankless job. I've been on 2 of them. And so I wanted this to be a thank you to all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and you will be missed.
Good evening. Mary Post, 4923 New Haven Drive. I wanted to thank the board tonight for their consideration of the resolutions before you for the North Shore Commons Special Assessment District. The Special Assessment District will provide the funds that we couldn't get elsewhere to replace our private roads and curbs that were built almost 30 years ago. They've outlived their usefulness, and the replacement will be such a plus for our community. We have great community support for this, and I appreciate the township offering this program for us.
Thank you, Mary.
Last but not least, Jeff DeHanens, 5494 Sharp Drive. Greetings, day 1 back from 2 weeks in Melbourne in Australia. And one of the things that I love, this is my 3rd time in Australia, one of the things I absolutely love is the amount of green space that Australians did purposefully. I think in my 2 weeks, I walked through at least 14 different specific botanical gardens. And my point to that is just simply this. The township has a lot of land that we've acquired here for the park. What a great, great use of walking trails and things like that. I hope that in the future, we do the same thing across the street. What was amazing, though, is almost every garden that you went to, 1850, 1860, 1870, These were purposely put in 150, 120 years ago. And here it is, thriving today. So it may take years for a place like that, a green space, to develop as plush as theirs have. But gosh, wouldn't that be a legacy to have the preserving additional green space in Genoa Township, especially around the township hall? So it's just food for thought. There's nothing else meant to it. Just really appreciate the fact that we have preserved green space, and I think there's some great uses in the future for it. So thanks.
Thank you, Jeff.
Hi, Dan Wallahan, formerly 33 years in Genoa Township, back in my old stomping grounds. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of my wife, who is making the rounds as well. She is Christina Like. She is running for 44th Circuit Judge. She's a Livingston County native like I am, and spent almost her entire life in the county outside of her time in law school. She's a 20-year attorney, has been in every type of circuit court case you can think of: family law, criminal defense, civil law, and constitutional law. She's a very well-rounded experience and is extremely well qualified, and I believe has had the longest time within Livingston County of the candidates running, and she'll be, if elected, a rule of law judge who will do well by our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Zimmer, 4820 New Haven Drive. I'm just here basically to amplify what Mrs. Post said about your help with our road project. About a year ago, maybe just a little bit more than that, we told our annual meeting that our roads are really in bad shape and we were going to have to do something about it. And we got a lot of blank stares, and people kind of shuffled their feet side to side and said, well, okay, do something. Well, after that, we got started on it, and a friend of mine had gone through it and gave me some tips. So I called the manager for Osceola County, and he said to talk to Kelly and Martyr over here. And so one introduction with her, she got me all the resources I need to ask about how to do a road project. And with their help and all the folks on our board, we were able to get all of our petitions, well, 77% of our petitions. So we're really happy, and I really want you to know how much we really appreciate your help. That's it.
Thank you, Ray.
Good evening. My name is Mark Gatesman. I'm running for the 44th Circuit Court as well. I'm a lifetime resident of Livingston County. I was born and raised in Howell. I'm a Howell High School graduate. My father's family, the Gatesmans, have been in Livingston County since the 1930s. He grew up on a farm on Jewell Road. He was the elected prosecutor, my father, Charles Gatesman, in the 1960s, elected Livingston County prosecutor. My mother was a school teacher. Since my father was an elected official and I became a lawyer, although he died when I was very young, I wanted to leave the area. So I'm licensed in Florida as well, and when I finished law school, I practiced down there for 6 years, I'm sorry, 8 years before returning to Howell, where I've had my practice since 1997. If you drive through Howell, which I'm sure you all do, you drive past my office all the time. It's on Grand River in front of the Howell High School complex. It's an older home that's been converted to an office right across from Metal Lodge. And if you've been around for a long time, it's right next to the building that used to be the WHMI building. I practice in state courts throughout the state. I'm also admitted to the United States District Court and practice there regularly in both the Northern and Southern Division. I'm also admitted in the United States Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. Lastly, I'd like to talk to you that I have been lead counsel since on the People versus Kowalski case, a rather infamous case here that was reversed due to corruption, judicial corruption. And I've been the lead counsel in that matter since when my son was in 5th grade, and now he's graduating from high school because no one else would take the case. And I've been working for almost 6 years now to try to get Mr. Kowalski justice. That's the type of judge I would be, a judge that follows the law, doesn't legislate from the bench. The Constitution means what it does, and he fights corruption. I just wanted to introduce myself, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.
Hello, Deborah Beatty, 3109 Pineview Trail. I had a couple questions. First, about the minutes. In case somebody else doesn't catch it, fund balance says 62.7%. So I'm thinking, I don't think that's right. Next thing, the Merlot property, last meeting. Bill brought up that all of the discussions were 250 gallons. I was at both of those PC meetings. All of the discussions were 250 gallons. All of the documents, drawings, 250 gallons. So I was surprised, as he was, when all of a sudden that number changed to 300 gallons, 2 300-gallon tanks. I don't think that's what makes the difference, 250 or 3, though it might to somebody. But the question I have is, how does that just magically change from PC approving 250, I'm using the word approve, to coming to the board now all of a sudden it's 300? So that didn't make sense to me, how you can just do that. It seemed like there should have been a discussion during the board meeting about applicant wants a change from 250 to 300. Next thing, I noticed on the budget that the planning and zoning budget has been, it looks like quite a bit reduced, and I was wondering about that. It was last year 20,075, and this year 11,550. So I'm wondering what that's about, because I have mentioned before, planning commissions are so important, and we have to stop skipping planning commissions. There's a lot of work to do on updating ordinances, adding new ordinances, and now with the master plan, we're going to be making some changes, and we need every planning commission to be in order once a month. Please stop skipping them. The planning commission meetings are so important. I mean, I go to almost all of them, and they are so detailed, and so they're very time consuming when they're working on ordinances. They require a lot of PC time. So please stop skipping them. Next, the internal investigation. I see there's a number for that in the budget, and I would just like an update on where we are with that, if you could give us that tonight. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Anyone else, Patty? Oh, okay. That's all for the pre-signed up people. Would anyone else like to address the board during the call to the public? Okay, seeing none, I will close the call to the public at 6:48 p.m. At this time, I would seek a motion regarding the consent agenda.
Before we do that, I'd like to take number 2, the approval of the February 16th regular meeting minutes out of the consent agenda and move it to the regular agenda. There are a couple of errors in it that we need to address.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with item number 2 moved to the regular agenda.
Support.
I have a motion, I have support. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I would ask all those in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried. At this time, I would entertain a motion regarding the regular agenda.
I'd move approval of the regular agenda with items 2 through 11.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask,
I don't understand, and maybe it's better to talk about it when we get there, but it is an agenda.
yeah, this is just whether or not we want to move, whether we approve the agenda as written, plus number 2 move to the regular agenda. That's all this is, no questions on the actual minutes yet.
Okay. No, yeah, not the minutes, but go ahead.
Okay, I mean, if there's anything else regarding that subject.
Just the structure and what comes next, that's fine.
Okay. So then, seeing no further discussion, I would ask all those in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. That moves us to action item number 2, which is the request to approve the February 16, 2026 regular meeting minutes.
Okay, the one thing, well, there's a couple of things that jumped out. One that, under the call of the public, Deb Beatty was interested in starting a committee that would be of all volunteers and a certified expert. It didn't say what type of committee, and I believe she talked about an environmental committee. So I want that added to it.
Agreed?
Anybody else? Bill?
Did you have anything else, Rick?
I know there was a couple others that you had.
So I did, under the budget call to the public, when Susan Nichols spoke, it says manager twice. I do believe she said supervisor, not manager twice. So one manager and add supervisor.
And it really should read treasurer, not treasury.
True. We did have, and unfortunately, it says for employees, comma, and then there's nothing after it. I did not have time to review the video to see what came after that.
I think I interpreted that the following comment was in addition to that, and
I would prefer to probably either
Just remove.
strike
word
the and
yeah,
and stop at employees.
okay.
Thank you.
That was all that I had, Bill.
On page 13 of the packet, second pair, I just wanted to check this because it said, supervisor, suppliers, state the employees contribute with healthcare, went up 25%. Employees are paying between $625 and $780 per year. Is that correct?
An additional.
Then maybe add the word additional.
That was absolutely discussed. I do think we should
That's
change
additional.
Yeah, that's additional.
an additional 625 to 780 per year. Yes, I agree. Good catch.
And then I'm gonna try to find this, there's a, I should have wrote this down. There's a date referenced in September, but I think that was the wrong.
Yeah.
You are correct. It should have been February. That is page 18.
Yeah, about the middle of the page.
Yep. Request for, or no, it's during the board discussion. And I am not sure why, did I miss, oh,
September
because I'm on the
23rd.
wrong page, yep.
Monday.
It says on Monday, September 23rd, it should read, February 23rd.
And then the last one that I had is on page 27 of the packet. It's regarding, it's part of the draft or it's part of the meeting that happened at the planning commission.
Those
No,
are,
we're not there yet. We're just doing this.
those are for the planning commission minutes. So they haven't been approved yet, so they're still draft, but you will have to change those at the planning commission.
Oh, okay.
But we can't change them, but if you'd like to advise us of what you feel you were misrepresented, I would like to know.
Yeah, just for the record. For the record, on page 27, it says, Commissioner Reiber confirmed Staggert requested to have a parking lot on the side of the driveway. I think it was more parking spaces, not a parking lot.
Okay. And I think that is addressed a little bit in the, farther down, it looks like there's 6 spaces potentially. But
So
we'll talk
you'll
about that
correct,
when we get there.
you'll correct those at the next planning commission.
Yep, so you will have to correct those there. Does anybody else have anything on the minutes?
I'll move to approve the February 16th regular meeting minutes as amended.
Second.
Okay, and actually, before I call for further discussion, Patty, are you clear on everything we've said? Okay, excellent. So I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask all those in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Action item number 3 is the consideration of a recommendation of approval for the special use, site plan, and environmental impact assessment for a proposed family daycare home up to 14 children located at 554 South Hughes Road on the west side of Hughes Road, south of Golf Club Road. This request is petitioned by Jennifer Duncan. If you don't mind, could, yeah, the one with the microphone, please. And now for those at home, if you could, please, try and keep the mic kind of close to you. Thank you.
Good evening. Do you want me to kind of just tell you a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm Jennifer Duncan. This is Elizabeth Stowe. We have worked together for the past 20 years. My background is in early childhood and child development, and I have been a licensed care provider for 25 years. First in my home in Ypsilanti. Currently I own a center, and I've owned a center and preschool for the last 14 years. My husband and I moved here 6 years ago, and so now I'm looking to have a smaller group and get approved for special land use so that I can get licensed at my current residence here, and so that we can continue to care for and teach children, but just a smaller group.
Excellent. Thank you. Anybody have any questions on the packet and what is in it?
I do. I would like some clarification, because through all the paperwork, it says 7 to 12 children. But then it says up to 14. Like, how did we go from her asking for 7 to 12 to up to 14?
I think that has to do with how it's defined in our zoning ordinance. It's defined as 14, like 7 to 14 is what the state defines as it. They're proposing only up to 12.
Could I touch on that? Sure. So previous with licensing, you could only do 12. In the last couple years, they changed it where you can apply for a variance through the state license up to 14. But with this being a new license for me, I would have to be at my current residence licensed for a year and a half. And then at that time, if I decide to apply for 14, and then they would approve me as long as everything was fine. So I think that probably changed in the last 2 years to 14.
Okay.
Okay. And obviously, you have no problem providing us a copy of your license when you receive it. Yep.
Now, it looks like you came out of Planning Commission with all approvals. So Bill, your only clarification was the parking spaces?
Yeah, in the minutes. I don't think I asked for an additional parking lot. I just, park on the side of, because she has like a long driveway and you're doing staggered, and I said, why don't you park on the side of the drive?
As our liaison, is there anything you would like to explain that happened that wasn't necessarily captured clearly in the minutes or anything? Everything looked good?
Well, this is the third or fourth time I've seen Jennifer.
Yeah.
And she had a couple of things, a couple of loose ends to wrap up. I think she got everything wrapped up with the enclosed fence. Your water was tested without any kind of issues. And you do have to be licensed by the state, so there are certain regulations that you have to follow for there. So I don't think that there was anything that stood out.
Okay.
There was that one letter from your neighbor that's concerned.
So my house is set very far back, and he's up in the front by Hughes Road.
Okay.
And then our little fenced-in play area would be like on the opposite side. We have almost 3 acres on our land, like right under 3.
All right.
It does look to be very well treed as well.
Yes. Yeah, like, I mean, in the winter, obviously, you can see more, but when the trees start coming in and everything, you can't even see. You wouldn't even be able to see us.
Okay.
I'm all set.
Anyone else wish to ask any questions of the applicant. Okay, at this time, I would entertain motions on number 3.
Yeah, I would move to approve the special land use for a proposed group daycare home for up to 14 children for property located at 554 South Hughes Road. The requirements of section 19.03 and 3.0302K of the zoning ordinance are generally met.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask all those in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Disposition of special land use application is carried. Motion.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
We have
Got
2 more.
2 more.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
You're close. You're
Don't go
close.
yet.
So I'll continue on. I'll move to approve the environmental impact assessment dated January 16th, 2026, for a proposed group daycare home for up to 14 children for property located at 554 Hughes Road.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask all those in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried on the environmental impact assessment.
And then last but not least, I'll move to approve the site plan dated January 21st, 2026 for a proposed group daycare home for up to 14 children, 554 South Hughes, with the one condition that the applicant must obtain and supply the township with the required state of Michigan licensing.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask all those in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Good luck.
All set? Good luck, Jennifer. Moving on. Action item number 4 is request for approval of resolution number 1 to proceed with the project and direct preparation of the plans and cost estimates for the North Shore Commons Condominium Private Road Improvement Special Assessment Project, Summer Tax 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased to present to you this evening a project for the North Shore Commons condominium. As was stated by some of our residents earlier, we've been working really hard with them over the last few months to set up this project. They've done a lot of work getting petitions done in their neighborhood. And of the 49 parcels, they have submitted to us 38 petitions, which is 77% of their neighborhood. One notable change for this project as compared to many other projects we do is that their homeowners association is contributing funds to the project. They have $120,000 that they've saved up and set aside to contribute to that. So the total cost to the township or to the district is $403,000. And I've provided for you in the cover letter an analysis of what that breaks down to each year for the residents. And we're seeking your support to move forward with the project.
Excellent, thank you. And I would point out, because this is a private road, the township does not do any matching fees or any extra contribution on behalf of those residents. Any questions on the project or the district?
No, it's nice to have that much support for a project.
It looks to be very well supported.
I'll
We
move
did
to-
have excellent participation at our pre-meeting. So.
Good.
I'll move to approve Resolution 1 to proceed with the project and direct preparation and plans for cost estimates for North Shore Commons Condominium Private Road Improvement Special Assessment Project.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Susie, I would ask for a roll call vote, please.
Reiber.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Valenti.
Yes.
Hovarder.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Susie, yes. Spire.
Yes. Okay. Resolution 1 passes. Action item number 5 is a request for approval of resolution number 2 to approve the project, schedule the first hearing for March 16th, 2026, and direct issuance of statutory notices for the North Shore Commons Condominium Private Road Improvement Special Assessment Project, Summer Tax 2026.
I'll continue with that one and move to approve Resolution 2 to approve the project scheduled for the first hearing on March 16th, 2026, and direct issuance of statutory notices for North Shore Commons Condominium Private Road Improvement Special Assessment Project.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask for a roll call vote. Clerk Susie.
Hunt,
Yes.
Valente,
Yes.
Havarder,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Reiber,
Yes.
Susie, yes. Spire,
Yes. Okay, resolution number 2 passes. So, and just to clarify, that in essence schedules the public hearing for our next meeting. And if any of the 11 people who didn't submit a petition, we would ask you to come in and let your feelings be known at the next meeting. Action item number 6 is the consideration of approval for the general appropriation of funds for the fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2026, and ending March 31st, 2027, for budget fund numbers 101, 202, 212, 249, 250, 401, 402, 532, and 853. Any questions or concerns among the board? And generally, items 6 and 7 would be combined, but we have removed one account for Ms. Valenti to not have any issues with a conflict of interest.
Yeah, was that the question, because it's split out?
No,
Oh.
no, sort of, but sort of not. Item number 6, there's certain funds and departments that are covered and called out for these. And part of item number 6 is payroll. But later, we have a resolution that has different amounts for payrolls, different amounts. There's a budget, and then there's a resolution amount. So I didn't know what was driving the differences between those two figures.
In terms of what is plugged in for this budget number and what is on
A resolution.
the resolution for pay of the electeds?
Yeah, and the appointeds, yeah. there's
Yeah,
those
electeds
two
and
of them.
appointeds. Yeah.
So if I look at what the resolution salary figure is, and yet I look at the budget, which 101 includes the general funding for that, there are different numbers, and I don't know why those numbers are.
So a semi-simple answer is those payroll periods will fall in such a way that during the first pay of the new budget year, there may only be 2 days that are part of that. Because that is paid in the new year, that will all show up in the new year, even though 12 of those 14 days were actually already covered. And then on the back end, you end up with the same thing. So they're not going to line up. The pay periods don't line up exactly with the fiscal years. So you don't want the budget number to be identical. You do want to have a little bit of an extra, so if there is, something that like that pops up, you don't have to come back and get approval.
And if I may, just at one point to clarify, I just highlighted it for the resolution related to the elected officials. There is an asterisk and a footnote that these are base wage salaries, and they exclude any longevity compensation, cell phone reimbursement, or medical opt-out payments. So the number in the budget is going to be inclusive of all wages. This resolution is strictly for the base wage salary.
Yeah, I read that number. I have some other questions. Will that be the same then for the appointed? Because there's electeds, then there's another resolution for appointeds.
Yep, there are separate resolutions. That's probably going to fall more on my description. I don't believe any of the appointeds. The other thing is, if we call a special meeting, they get paid to attend the special meeting. We had several this year. And same with us, actually. The trustees will have to allow for, it won't just be the number of meetings times that. You have to allow for any potential special meetings and that sort of thing.
And I noticed on the appointeds, Todd's an appointed person and Candy's appointed as well, right, to BAFA and to the Parks and Recs.
They are actually paid by their board.
Oh, the two separates?
Yeah.
Okay.
HAPRA does not pay a separate
Yeah.
fee. But the BAFA does.
But, BAFA pays for Todd to be there, yes.
As so does Geo Sewer and MHOG Water. So you don't see, the township isn't paying us to be appointed members of those boards.
And I did misspeak. HAPRA does not currently, so we do pay Candy for that position, but she is paid the same rate that she's paid for coming here.
Okay, but I noticed that she, nor Todd's, and I didn't understand that they were not included in the list of departments that got.
Yeah,
that were
okay,
part
yeah.
of appointeds. And then I'm sorry, Kevin, but and I realize you were very busy today with some questions here. So in the budget, yeah, thank you, Kelly. I just want to make sure that when we compare what we were at and what we're proposed to, the second column says 2025-26 amended budget. And then the far right column says the 2026-27 recommended budget. So is that, and I can see the first number, the 40,000 and the 42,000. Right, that's the 5% delta that I see between those two numbers, the amended budget for 2025-26 and recommended for 26-27. I just wanted to make sure when somebody says there's a 3%, there's a 5% increase or change, those are the two numbers we're comparing. Those are the two columns.
Actually, the proper, yes, that is the proper as construed right now. However, if you look 2 columns to the right of the amended budget is proposed amendments. Those are amendments that haven't been made yet, that are going to have to be made before they'll be made at the next meeting, because that's the last chance we're going to have to do those. That is a little more of the budget to actual number, what you see in the proposed amendments. So the proper way to measure that is to compare the next to the last column on the right with the last column on the right to get the growth factor.
Okay. Then I have a couple more questions.
Okay.
Sorry. It's in the section that's entitled election. I jumped around here. It says that we're paying part-time office staff $60,800. And who are part-time office staff?
We'll let the clerk handle that.
Yeah, that's, there are going to be probably four part-time people in the office helping us with the election process, and then that's all the election workers and so forth that fall into that. And we have 3 elections.
So
The
that's
election workers, like the volunteers that come in and, because that's a different, is that a different?
Well, they're not volunteers, though.
They get paid.
We
Right,
pay
okay,
them.
But that's part of what, the $45 and then, okay.
That's all of what that is.
That covers early voting as well, correct?
Right, what the 9
Yeah,
days.
you got.
We
you
have
got a
2
lot
sets of
days.
9 days early voting, yeah.
And then, I think Susan said, there are certain people here that are showing even above a 5% increase, comparing those 2 columns, which we clarified. So, how did that happen?
What is you referring to?
We-
Well, one of the ones I noticed, the IT department, before and after is 7%.
So the amended budget, however, not the proposed amended budget, actually does not show the longevity bonus, or?
Correct.
Yeah, the longevity bonus is not shown in there, and it will be once we amend it. So the number is a little less. We were unable to come up with the same calculations. I assume you're referring to the email we received.
Yeah.
A lot of those numbers we were unable to duplicate to try to figure out where those came from. When we calculate the numbers, we do not get the same percentages.
But the 2025, 2026 proposed is
81.
not approved. It doesn't exist right now, correct? The numbers
Yep.
that do exist are the second column from the left. Right, that is the budget, right?
Yep, that is the current
So
budget, though it
that's-
is,
That was the number I was using, the 79, to compare to the 85.
okay, well, it just, so in some of these budget items, you're gonna come out fairly far off. I mean, in the clerk's office, you're gonna see like, well, actually, with the amendments Rick already made, it's not quite as far off, but you're still going to see some numbers that weren't accounted for. So using, I mean, if we don't approve those, then we'll be over budget for this year, which I suppose would be our choice if we decided to do that. But the proposed amendments, the number there is basically what you would call a budget to actual, or what I would call a budget to actual for the most part. So I do think comparing that number there to the number in the final column is going to give you a more accurate representation of the jump. When we were trying to decide how to increase or decrease certain budget items, each line number, and, we went through this multiple times, line by line by line, we used the number that we would propose to amend to figure out what next year should be. Otherwise, you're gonna have some wild inaccuracies on some accounts. Not a lot.
Well, and keep in mind too, these numbers are just our best guess budget numbers, what we're anticipating. We're still expecting the wage study to come in. These aren't raises that take effect until April 1. And there's performance reviews that will be done and a lot of time and effort put into this before final decision. But this board has been looking at 3 to 5% on average.
Yeah, what about that wage study? Just
We're
late,
waiting.
or it's
We're
on the
waiting
route?
for them to finish it.
The commission did in December. I thought we would have it, but
So we obviously don't have their findings
We do not.
not
at
yet.
this point in time.
No, it would make it a lot easier if we did. But I would hope that we would have them before decisions are made on the actual numbers. But
Which is next.
we have 2 more weeks. We kind of gave them the hip too.
Sorry, what is the difference between salary? It says, and I'm just gonna pick on IT because it's at the top of the page. It says IT department wages and salaries. What are the difference between those two words?
So salary is the base salary for the position. And then wages are items that the IRS would tax you as income on, which would include the longevity bonus. If anyone who gets a car allowance, that would be considered a taxable wage.
Overtime.
Many of the employees here are actually hourly, so they get overtime if they work overtime.
Isn't MHOG picking up part of his salary because he works for them as well?
That's correct.
Like what?
They reimburse us.
Like 50% or something?
It's 40%.
Okay.
So why isn't that on their budget then?
What's that?
Why isn't that on their budget?
It is.
The amount they reimburse us
budgets?
shows up in MHOG's budget.
Well, they have to reflect it in their budget to reimburse us.
And then number 3 on my list, I'm still on that, the EHIM reserve in pro care. That was for $50,000 and $60,000, I think respectively, or maybe 60 and 50. Explain to me, that has something to do with medical insurance, does it not?
Yep, that is the reimbursement. One is the fund, the reserve fund. The 50,000 is the reserve fund for if we have a bad year and we have more claims. The 60,000 is the budgeted expected cost that we will pay out of pocket on the, paying for deductibles and co-pays, which are higher because we took, the higher deductible plan to save on the premium.
I think one way to look at it, Bill, from a personal standpoint, if you were to find a health insurance policy that had a huge deductible, just get your premium down, and let's say it was a $10,000 deductible that you were gonna have to pay, and you took $10,000 out of your savings account and put it in a special account to cover that medical reimbursement up to that 10 that you have to pay, that's how you're covering it. We're doing similar, the same thing. We're taking savings money, putting it aside in the event that we have a claim, and if we don't have the claim, it's gonna go back to the general fund. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, but you said if I had this and I did this, but this is, I think, in line with what Susan was talking about, that $50,000, that $60,000 is paid for everybody in this room, right? That's who's putting in the money. Is everybody here and everybody there? So, that is a good explanation though.
And we have unallocated funds, so it's not like we're asking the township to take any more money from anybody to fund that. We have the money there to do that.
Well, and if I may just dive a little bit more into the budget. So you'll see for the current fiscal year, we budgeted $380,000 for health and life insurance. This includes this year EHIM. You'll see that we are requesting, or we will be requesting an amendment to increase that to $420,000. And then you'll see moving into next fiscal year, it's going down by $360,000. That's because we're moving that number down to this EHIM ProCare number so that we can better track the spending there and make sure that we're meeting benchmarks and that we know when we have to pull out of the reserve. Currently, it's all lumped into this one item.
Right now, they're combined numbers. So we've expanded several accounts to attempt to make it more clear where certain expenses are going.
Page 98, if that helps you.
Well, whatever it is, clearly it could be seen as a benefit.
Just so you can see.
Yeah.
It's a benefit for sure
Yep.
to the staff.
Absolutely.
When we
It's a nice
switched,
benefit.
when we switched to EHIM, it brought our insurance, the amount we paid to Blue Cross and Blue Shield down dramatically. And it has worked well over the last few years.
We also instituted a wellness program for the employees because the healthier our employees are, the less we're spending on those items, and that has also worked very, very well.
Can you tell me an example of a wellness item?
I can. So as part of the wellness items, some of that was sort of getting your blood pressure readings, getting sort of a test of your glucose levels. And in fact, there were a number of employees that didn't realize they had high blood pressure, we were able to help identify that, or that their blood sugar was high, and we were able to help identify that. So it definitely has helped people identify where maybe they need to make some improvements and move forward with that.
Is that something that we fund ourselves, not like through like an AFLEC or something that has those programs?
Correct. It's self-funded. There is a line item here in the budget called wellness. It's $8,000. This year, we've spent $2,400.
I had another question. We do have some employees that have a car allowance, but I also see in the budget that we have a budget for mileage. So I'm used to, like, if I have a company car and I'm traveling or something like that,
Well, keep in mind, this isn't a company car.
yeah, I know.
It's a percentage of your car.
But we're reimbursing them for,
Not necessarily them, others.
I can address that. I get a car allowance. You will see in the line item for the manager's department budget, mileage and travel expenses. I do have an employee in the department that is eligible for mileage. Those employees that have a car allowance are not eligible for mileage reimbursement. So there is a standard mileage and travel expense line item that would cover, say, if I drove to Lansing and had to pay to park, they would come out of that line item. If the employees that don't have a car allowance use their vehicle, then they would be reimbursed mileage out of that line item as well.
Thank you. Sorry, I said I jumped around. So in the clerk's department, there is an election coordinator.
Right?
And my question was, this is a full-time person?
Yep.
And why would that person need to be full-time?
That was put placed by the previous clerk.
And this board voted to approve that. I believe it was in March or April of 2025.
Yeah.
March 17th.
I'll still ask the question. What does the person do the day after the election?
She's
So-
also the clerk assistant.
Yeah.
So she has 2 jobs.
It's more than just elections.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Clerk's assistant slash
Election
elections coordinator.
I didn't hire 2 people, I hired one to do the 2 jobs.
And are they salaried?
Hourly,
They're both hourly? Okay.
yeah.
That answers my other question. And then on Department 191, I asked the question, who is the accounting department wages and salary person?
So that's our bookkeeping specialist. That prepares what you see in the bill payments, you know, the checks and all that.
She also is doing the payment of the bills too, so.
So Cindy was in that line item and she retired.
Now Denise is handling them both.
It's now Denise. Yeah.
And then a question number 257, I think, is the department number, assessing. It says that there was a reduction in the budget because somebody retired, and the reduction was only $8,900. How does, were we paying somebody $8,900?
No, she doesn't retire till June 6th, somewhere in the middle of June. So she will still be on the books for her full salary. But then, I mean, we were able to do some things and move some things around to not replace Cindy. We will not be able to do that with Laura. We will need 3 full-time people in the assessing department. So.
Yep, we have an intern right now that's gonna be moving into a employee status next 90 days.
How long is that intern? Do they do a 6-month stint, year?
90 days, I think.
That is through the county, and they rotate them through different municipalities. I believe it's 4 different municipalities.
As well as the county.
Yeah. So,
So I noticed the intern was also up for a 5% raise, which is why I'm asking if somebody's here for a few months, why would you even give them a raise? They're here to go on.
He's not getting that until he goes into a full-time position with us.
well, but the other thing is, they will probably do a rotation. Same, I mean, they do this every year. So we may see a different intern next year. I have no idea what they're going, I don't know what their wage is going to be. Actually, the current number is amazingly low. For the hourly, it's, you wouldn't find anyone cutting grass for the number that this gentleman is doing this for. So that's awesome if we can keep that. I wouldn't hold my breath.
And keep in mind, Bill, this is not a 5% increase for everyone. It's being based as a 3% cost of living adjustment and a 2% raise at department head discretion. So it's not automatic 5%, everybody.
Yeah, I got that, thank you.
But you and others have hung up on 5%. It's not gonna be 5%.
It's just because the number 5 is in the upper right corner in red text. I understand. It's
Okay.
a 3 and then a plus something.
Okay.
There may be a plus
Or
0.
plus nothing.
And I did find out, I did ask why there was no disaster contingency fund, but it was just because that line item, that row was blank, but below that $250,000 is still maintained.
It's there.
Is that a one-time thing, or do we have to keep paying for that?
Well, no, we have
It's
to
a one-time,
maintain
it's
it
just a
at
bank account.
250,000. As a matter of fact, we're only required to have the 250. That 250 thankfully earns some interest. We will actually probably come in and ask for a transfer of that interest to the general fund.
Okay. And then in Department 728, EDCLC reorganization. What is being reorganized and what does that entity do?
So that's the Economic Development Council of Livingston County. They are the ones that formerly were contracted with Spark. They have terminated the contract with Spark and re-entered a new contract with the Howell Chamber of Commerce. It is being reorganized. Some of the private corporations have re-upped. There are no municipalities currently involved. They would like to get some municipalities involved. We have not been able to figure out what that looks like. It will be greatly reduced from what it used to be. I expect that Janelle is going to join us at a supervisors meeting gathering where all the supervisors get together and try to gauge the interest among the other townships in having this.
So that's more of a placeholder.
That is a placeholder.
When and if they get reorganized.
We
And-
have
and
no
that-
idea. So previously, this year we spent nothing because we didn't pay our dues. We would have been the only municipality that did, so obviously we weren't doing that. And the number would have been 26,000. So as I've made it very clear that that number we can't justify that number. We can justify a lower number. I don't know what that number is going to be. So that's just the number we put in there. And that will include, so if we don't belong to that, we are probably going to have to hire somebody on a part-time basis to do some business retention, business solicitation. I know many people have expressed a desire to have more restaurants and things like that. If nobody's out there telling them that, hey, Genoa Township wants your restaurant to come here, they're not going to necessarily come here. Let's face it, a lot of people from far away, we're Brighton or we're Howell. They don't know Genoa Township. They should, but they don't.
And then, sorry, last section, Department 701. It has planning and zoning, wages and salaries. It's the 1, 2, 3rd item, and I'm on page 100 of the packet. It shows that there's a 2025 amended budget of $220,100, and then a proposed recommended budget of $230,000, which is about a $10,000 increase, but then it says reduction in the comments.
So that comment reduction due to new hire at lower wage actually applies to the proposed amendments. And I apologize if that creates some confusion, but you'll see the current fiscal year, we budgeted 220 and we're reducing it to 202. And then going up to 230 for the next fiscal year. And the reason why it was high and then we're dropping it down and then it's going back up is because we hired a new person at a lower wage in the planning and zoning department. So, and there was a vacant seat for a few months here in the township in that department as well.
Is that young man that was at the meeting last?
Yes, Bobby.
So had that position stayed staffed at the level it was at the beginning of the fiscal year, we would have landed at 220 because it was vacant and we hired someone at a lower rate for this, mid-year, it should go down and then back up again.
Thank you. And then the last item was just a couple rows below that. It's $65,000. This is proposed 26-27 for master plan. Is that Giffords?
There will also be some zoning ordinance amendments, like the moratorium, things of that nature. So there are other costs than just Giffords associated. Remember, we have to redo the entire ordinance book, pretty much.
Giffords is in there, though.
To implement, they're part of that number, but that entire number is not Giffords. There is some legal in there as well. And we don't actually know how many amendments we're gonna have to make yet.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I guess other than that, I think everybody got copied on an email from Susan. And I just had some questions on some of those. I don't have the figures here in the packet. It's not part of it. But I know that in our handbook, we say that our employees get a 10% 401k contribution. The township contributes 10% of their, well, it's kind of confusing, salary and wages to a 401k. And that's without any contribution necessary from the employee, correct?
correct.
And the reason that it seems to me like we're kind of double dipping Working from memory, there's some people that get like over $4,000 for opt-out for medical.
That's not included
That's
in
not
it.
that's not in there.
Yeah, that's where the difference between a wage and a salary.
It is though, on the document that Susan, unless it's wrong.
That's wrong.
Unless the document that Susan had, it's that 4,800 or 4,200, whatever dollar that figure was. If you take their salary and then you take that medical opt-out and add them together, and then take 10% of that total, that's what's shown in the 401k contribution.
Now, did these people also get a car allowance?
There was
Because it's a similar number.
There was just 3 people, I think, that had that 4280.
There's only one now.
In the budget, there was an error. So what happens is when we're trying to put these numbers together, we formulate a spreadsheet. And so like, for instance, the employee leaving, the person who left the planning department a while ago. There was a number in the budget from last year for that person being here for the full year. Wasn't here for the full year. When we replaced that person with Bobby, we did not go back into the calculation sheet. That was a because a FOIA only gives you existing documents, like make up a new document that didn't exist for a FOIA. That was last year's planning sheet. And, you don't go back and correct last year's planning sheet for things that you just correct here in the budget. So, that may not have been 100% accurate, but that's what was asked for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sort of.
I mean, so we need a number to plug in here for wages and salaries. So we use a spreadsheet to come up with that number. Once we have done that and put that in here, Kelly saves it because of what it is. I mean, I would crumple it up and throw it away because it's completely irrelevant now, other than for FOIA purposes. So then when you make changes on this budget to reflect things that have happened during the current year that you approved, you don't go back and change that spreadsheet because it's kind of irrelevant. You reflect those changes are reflected in this year's calculations, but.
Just in the data presented to me, the calculations showed that the 401k was being doubled on top. You also get 10% on top of that buyout, which is a very decent buyout. I got to tell you, that is a very generous buyout. 4,000 some dollars.
Opt-out?
Yeah, the medical opt-out. Yeah, not buyout, opt-out. Yeah.
So
Let me give you an example of that. I opt out mine. I get $2,400 a year for that. I saved the township $26,000 by opting out. Don't say it's generous. It saves a ton of money for those who opt out.
If you didn't opt out, what would be your insurance premiums that you would pay? Instead of getting $2,400, you would actually get socked in the wallet. I'm guessing over the course
But
of
it would
your
cost the
life.
township $26,000 though.
Why
It would cost us
somebody-
more.
Why would somebody, just out of spite,
No,
if they
it's-
already have medical insurance through a spouse or some other program, just say, I want you to pay medical insurance too?
Nobody
I know what the medical opt-out bonuses are. Years ago, I worked for an employee that offered that. I couldn't do it because I had a wife and kids and I was the sole supporter, right? I couldn't do it. So I understand what the concept is there. It's, hey, thanks for not hitting us in the pocket. Here's something. But
But I could have elected to take it as well.
and then what? You would be paying part of your paycheck for coverage that you already have. Why would you do that? I would take the opt-out.
He's not doing it.
I know he's not doing it. So hypothetically. So, and my point was this, 4,000 some odd dollars, that's $350 a month, which is nice.
That's not,
So-
4,000 is not a number anymore.
Yeah, that was a grandfathered in, and I don't believe there were 3 people. I think when that budget number was calculated, there were 3 people at that number.
It's only one
The old
person.
clerk would have been included.
That
So-
opt-out amount got reduced over the years, and the people that already had it from many years ago were grandfathered in and kept that 4,000. But the people today are only getting 2,000 something.
And if you're single, it's $1,800. If you're
Right.
family, it's 32 or something like that, and 26, something like that. I'm being rough on the numbers, but it's staged based on whether it's single, double, couple, or family, but none of it's near 4,000.
Are you suggesting we shouldn't offer an opt-out if people don't take the insurance?
No, I'm not suggesting that. I was just saying, my point was, $4,000 is it's a very nice amount of money to have literally for nothing.
And that's why we reduced it over the years.
It's still good money.
I just want to clarify one point. If you get on the insurance and you take the insurance, you end up paying more for that insurance than you would for the opt-out. I didn't know if that point was clear, that if you decide to take the insurance, you're paying more than you would get as part of the opt-out.
I made that point. I said, boy, you would get socked in the pocket, right? If you decided just out of spite, I want insurance too. That's fine. You lose the opt-out, and now you're going to really lose every paycheck over the course of a year.
Correct.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Okay.
So I don't see
I
why
wasn't sure.
anybody that doesn't need why they would do that, why they would double.
Well, you could have a dual income family that you decide what benefit works best for you, to say, well, let's take your insurance versus my insurance type thing. You know, I can see people doing that and opting out because they'll be on their spouse's policy.
Yeah, I get that. I was just looking at a piece of information that obviously was not correct. And I did not know that was not correct, so I warranted the questions, because it looks like we were double dipping. It looked like we had several people that were, bringing in some decent money for not taking the medical insurance. And, my point again is that comes from all of us right here.
It does. However, it's not like we're gifting random people money.
No.
These are employees that are providing a service to the taxpayers. I would argue that it's a phenomenal service. At the very least, I would hope you would say it's a good service. And this is part of their total compensation package. Now, technically, opt-outs and certain things like that, you don't have to pay all the FICA, all the matching, all of that stuff. That's a bonus for us, like on the cell phone plan, for example. If I could pay all of my people a $250 a month cell phone plan, you better believe I'd be on it. I can't do that, obviously. So, but there would be money saved to your bottom line. And in this case, we are saving the taxpayers money on their bottom line by doing it the way we're doing it.
When was the last time this payout was reduced?
What's that?
You said you were giving them 4,000 and then you reduced it? When was the last
Oh,
time?
before we got here?
Because I know
Robin
that on
may
the
know.
hamper board, those people are only getting $250 a quarter for opting out of the insurance. So this is still pretty generous.
It's been quite a while that the reduction was made. I think probably when the DPW came in is when we looked at restructuring that, because it was going to be very expensive.
Yeah.
And it's a different number, single two-person family. So the revised thresholds for that are, it's a different amount. It's lower. The highest it can be, I think, is the 3,200, 3,300, and then it goes lower if you're a couple, and even lower than that if you're a single. So it
I
is not
believe
just
you
a
already
flat
said
rate.
it, Bill, but opt-outs are by no means like odd or different. They're actually very common.
I've worked for employers that do that. They got a husband, they're both working, right? Husband says, mine's better, we don't need yours.
Yep.
Go to the bank. All right,
Now, with
I get
the
it.
DPW is splitting off effective April 1st, all of those employees will no longer be under the umbrella of Genoa Township. So I think the township itself only has two,
I think it's only
And
one right now.
and one is retiring. You have it, and the assessor has it.
I have a question about the opt-out. Are we still budgeting for them to have health insurance, though?
No.
Why? What happens if that employee tomorrow says they take the opt-out and we budget for that, and that employee tomorrow says, I need to go on the insurance? Then we're gonna throw the whole budget.
Then we will come back to this
Budget
board
amendment.
and
Okay.
discuss an amendment.
Okay.
We do assume, so one of the complications of this is that the fiscal year is different than the benefit year. So our benefits renewal is actually, it starts December 1st.
Okay.
So you will see in the far column on the right that we do make an assumption of an 8% increase for January, February, and March. We do put in a little increase, so if somebody did decide to take the insurance we may not have to amend the budget. So there is a little extra in there.
Okay, because I mean, that's a big difference if we're giving 2,000 and the insurance is 26,000.
It
I
absolutely
mean,
is.
things happen all the time,
Right.
spouses lose jobs, you know.
That's why we have the caveat that this is our best estimate with the facts we have available today. So if a major fact changes a month from now, we have to make an amendment.
Okay. I have one other question.
No, absolutely, that's what this is for.
So over the past several meetings, there's been a lot of questions about the 3% cost of living. So I guess I have some questions about that. Is that a standard thing? I wasn't here for budget talks last year. Is that something that we give every year? Is that, when?
We don't have to, no.
When was the last time we gave a cost of living
So,
raise?
Last year.
if I can, so every year through the budget process, we always estimate something.
Okay.
You know, last year, the wage study was in earlier. Last year, there was a lot of dispute on whether certain people should get raises, and several did not get anything. So no, this is reviewed every year.
Okay. I mean, I was curious about that.
But it wasn't called cost of living.
I'm pretty
I
sure.
think it was.
Yeah,
No, there was no cost of living increase last year either on certain individuals.
They got nothing.
nobody sitting at this table received anything last year. No, I take that back. I don't know how Joe pays himself. Maybe Joe did, I don't know, but we don't pay him for that part, so.
But none of us got raises last year.
Yeah, everybody sitting at this table, there was nothing.
As well as another employee.
Okay. I was curious if that was like a standard thing, or if that was, the wage study is obviously gonna
The wage study is
study
very
is good.
critical.
impact that, because I mean, a few years ago, the cost of living was like 9%.
Yeah, we didn't get that.
Well, and maybe
didn't
if I
get
can
that.
give a little history on that as well. I know that many years ago, well, I guess not that many years ago, we did a wage analysis. We had a pretty comprehensive study done. And the results of that found that our employees were grossly underpaid as compared to competitors in other jurisdictions. And so as a result of that, the board, 2 years in a row, made double-digit increases to try and get the employees to just midpoint of where their pay should be. And I think since that happened, we've tried to stay very cognizant of the fact that if we don't give cost of living increases, we may find ourselves back in a position where the employees' pay is far below the market. They could start leaving. And in that case, we'd have to do larger increases again. And I think it's easier to budget for sort of just keeping everyone at cost of living increases so that we don't end up in a situation where we're far behind the market and we've got to try and fix it.
So everybody will get the cost of living, and then the 2% is only for merit. So not everybody will get that.
Department heads will write up, an evaluation, and that will be used by the admin committee and the department heads to discuss if, a merit-based raise is warranted.
And I wouldn't even go as far as to say everyone's guaranteed a 3%. I mean, if there's a department head that has an issue with a member of their staff and doesn't believe that they should get an increase, I mean, I think that'll get worked out as part of performance evaluations that are done by each department head.
I will say there is a lot of time and effort that gets put into this.
Well, I'm sure there is.
But wouldn't you say overall, it's a very good benefit package for these employees?
It
You
is
know,
very good.
the
And that is
10%.
why we get away with having them paid below midpoint of the
Yeah,
range.
so-
We have employees that have been here for 25 years that are still below the midpoint, so.
Think about that. So that's that midpoint is in theory average, very close to average.
Right.
Yeah, but does that include the longevity, the no deductible?
All of it.
You know, the 10% of their wages going to their 401k? I mean, that's all like,
Right.
wow, that's very good.
Right. It doesn't, but neither do other studies, right? When they look at wages, they tend to just look at wages, and then the benefits are on the side. So I think we try to be really cognizant of that, though, that our employees, and they appreciate it, have a wonderful benefit package. And so I think that's why we've been able to retain people so long at the pay that we're giving.
Keeping in mind, when we had some positions open, I reached out to other areas, people that were employed in other townships locally that may or may not have been eligible for some positions, and was flat out told, yeah, can't take that kind of a pay cut. So, you know, they didn't discuss benefits or that sort of thing, but that pay number was large to them. So that sort of backs up what Compies showed us. Now, unfortunately, Compies pulled out of the municipal sector, so we don't have a Compies this year. We've gone with Rheinbach. Oh man, 3 fancy names. Sounds like a law firm. Anyhow, Romberg Stover. I knew it would come to me eventually. And again, we're certainly hoping we see that. We've definitely made clear to them that we desperately need that.
What was the cost of that? Because if they can't get it on time, what good's it gonna do?
Well, we'll have it you'll know for next year.
They
It was
gonna redo
4,000.
it?
It's in the budget.
4,000, huh?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, it's not a small number. Well, I mean, I think we want to know if we're compensating our employees well, don't we?
I think probably we are.
It's not quite the same as some other businesses where you can just pop open the one ads and see what your competitors are paying.
Right.
This is a little different. I mean, you can go on and look and see what resolutions they passed for some of the positions.
It's
but
very difficult.
It is very difficult. There's just different levels of.
To compare to different municipalities, it's very difficult to look at apples to apples because every township and city is structured differently. You know, some clerks' departments do some things that others don't, and, you know, there's so many variables in that.
Some don't have assessors and they contract that out.
Yes.
And, yeah.
The MTA does have, I've tried to use the tool, the comparator. It's terrible because nobody uses it and it's useless.
It's terrible, yes. They try their best, but that's what you get for free. You know, it's no cost. You get what you pay for. It was important to us to know. And again, you know, according to our current provider, as of last year, you know, almost all of our people were below midpoint. So if you add the benefits on, that clearly takes them above midpoint. But if you're a 34-year employee, wouldn't you want to be way above midpoint? And you don't want to lose, if you want to hold on to those 34-year employees as long as you possibly can. Trust me, I would die for that. 18 is about as high as I get. And if he doesn't get above a 3% raise this year, he'll go to the guy next door. I've never gotten away with not giving raises ever, including when things went down.
In my last employer, I got 1 raise for 2% in 10 years.
I know it.
And I stayed there.
Man, do you have any relatives that want to do lawn care?
It was a drive too, but they had great benefits. They had a really good 401k contribution. Not like we have. I actually had to shovel some money out and get it matched, but they had good fringe benefits, other things.
So you see the benefit in that. I mean, it worked for you.
Yeah, but I mean, I stayed there. It wasn't based on getting raises. It was
Well,
other factors.
but you enjoyed the benefits, which is kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, by them giving you some of those benefits, they didn't have to pay unemployment, Social Security, all the matching that adds on to the total.
You know, giving, you know, benefits and everybody needs different
You want
things.
staff happy.
Right.
I would say the great majority of people that come in always compliment us on staff. It's happened several times right here when applicants have come in. And I think when it seems to be the majority that feel your staff is good, you don't want your staff to leave. And I believe our staff is excellent. So I value each and every one of them. They've been unbelievably helpful to us. We had a lot to learn. A lot of times it's only 1 or 2 newbies. Any further questions or concerns?
I just want to, this is how my head is thinking, and then I'll shut up so you can move on. $75,000, $50,000, $60,000, 10% 401k, retention bonuses, longevity bonuses, opt-out. We have a very, very, very good package, and I think the taxpayers pay quite a bit in for that type of stuff. So that's just my thoughts, just my feeling right now. So.
Okay.
And
We had a conversation the other day about percentage wages.
Versus peanut butter, yeah, where it's just a flat, yeah, the flat percentage as opposed to.
No, the percentage of our budget for wages versus our overall budget.
Oh, yes.
You were talking about that.
Yeah, and I wish, I wish I could remember what that percentage
It's a
was.
very, typical businesses run about 40% of their costs is in wages and so forth. We're like at 13% overall, you know, so.
We do run
we run
a
pretty
fairly lean
for
staff.
our budget.
I would like to think part of what enables us to run so lean is the fact that we have experienced people. I think if we didn't have an assessor who had been here for 34 years, we may need more people there. I can't tell you that for sure, but hopefully we don't have to find out during our term. But experience definitely helps you run lean. Any other questions or concerns? I just found it amazing that all of the various different expenses and things that we spend on, the only thing anyone cares about is what the employees are paid.
Well, we've got a bunch of other funds here that we're looking at for approval too, so.
They are, yeah.
Well, I did have a question. There are a couple of red numbers. We're budgeting for losses on some things.
Where are you at?
I'm on page, sorry. just
Those are the
really
debt funds.
106. At the bottom of it's got, we're actually budgeting for a deficit. I'm wondering how that happens.
Oh, these are the SAD funds.
Oh.
So we spend money and then it gets paid slowly over time.
So we pay it at the beginning and they pay us back over 10 years.
So this is a
Like
spending
going short.
down of those funds.
Yeah, so you'll see, if you were to even go back farther, you'll see the last few years, we've done a lot of special assessment districts. And that fund was up over, I think it was nearly 3 million, a little over 3 million when I took over as manager in 2022. And we've done so many projects that fund has kind of continued to decline. Now, if we did nothing, it would just replenish itself back up to that level because it's a loan that gets repaid over time. So that's what you're seeing, is the expenditures exceeding the revenue due to projects that are proposed.
Then we add to that?
If we approve the North Shore Commons project, we will be. That project actually is in this budget, so you'll see on page 105 of the packet, we have $403,000 put in the budget right now for the North Shore Commons project. That is the reason why you're seeing a decrease of $374. If that project doesn't go forward, you wouldn't see that decrease in it. And it's really a policy decision for the board how much you want to support these projects.
Well, I mean, we kind of have to, because I think, Kevin, you said we've got an overage. We don't want to keep too much money. We just want a rainy day, right, just in case. So we've got to figure out a way to make sure we're not hanging on to too much money, and that's got to go into benefiting. And I think maybe it was you, Kelly, said one of the big ways we do that, because these aren't cheap. These are hundreds of thousands of dollars that go right back to the residents if we're chipping in some money and giving them a low interest rate loan.
Yep.
So.
And we get to tap into the county contract. On the public roads, we get it at the county rate, which, unfortunately, the private roads may get a different rate than that. I'm not sure. Some of them have used different contractors, but when we do a public road and do the matching, it is actually with the person who's the company that's contracted by the road commission to do all subdivision roads. So there's a benefit to that as well. It's kind of like buying a new vehicle through MI bid, you get a little bit of a deal.
And I'll just add that this is pretty unique to Genoa Township. Many of our counterpart communities have millages, or they sell bonds to fund special assessment districts. So the fact that our general fund supports this fund and that we've been able to do so much for the residents is really pretty outstanding.
and it's not, seems to be a risk. It's good. They want it,
Yes.
and they're always thankful to you.
I mean, we've had a few projects that have been, just slightly over 50%, and those are usually a little bit more challenging. But for the most part, I think people see the value in this.
Agreed.
Since we're still on number 6, it's kind of related, and I don't want to go to agenda item number 8, but what's the difference between those two items? Because they kind of, what is the difference between 6 and 8?
So item number 8 is required by the law to adopt this General Appropriations Act, and we attach the approved budget to it. So it's essentially sort of tying a bow on everything. The approved budget is part of it, and it lays out the requirements of the state to pass that resolution.
It's a little bit more simplified, I would say.
8 will include 6 and 7 also, all of these accounts will be in the resolution.
Okay, so
We
8 is
consider an
submitting
8.
paperwork to the state and says, here's our budgets that was approved. That is what number 8 is.
Yeah, so if you go to the state website where they have the dashboard, the numbers that we give them from that resolution are what is going to show up on that dashboard.
Okay.
Now, they're at least a year behind, they might be 2. Otherwise,
Seems
what's up to date
redundant.
number.
It does. I was just asking, why is it so I mean, that's number 8. We're not gonna get there just yet, but
Nope.
it looked like 6.
It is.
But yeah,
Less detail.
yep, for sure. Any further questions or concerns? At this time, then, I would entertain a motion, if there is one.
I'll move to approve the general appropriation for fund for fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2026, ending March 31st, 2027, for budget fund numbers 101, 202, 212, 249, 250, 401, 402, 532, and 853.
Support.
Okay. I have a motion. I have support. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask all those in favor to signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same.
Aye.
Motion carried. Did you catch that, Patty? Yes. Okay, thank you. Action item number 7 is the consideration of approval for the general appropriation of funds for the fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2026 and ending March 31st, 2027 for budget fund number 208, Park and Recs.
I'll make a motion.
Parks and Rec.
So,
For that?
well,
Whoa.
no, you can't yet.
Oh.
So going back to full disclosure that I work for the senior center, I work for Brighton Area Schools and the senior center, and we're voting on, the Parks and Rec has the senior center funding in there. So you guys have to, do I have to make the motion or do they have to make the motion? I can't remember.
Somebody has to make a motion to recuse Ms. Valenti from that, and it has to be unanimous if you think she has a conflict that directly or indirectly benefits hers.
I thought you said last time it was fine. There was no conflict.
We still have to make a motion.
Yeah, you still have to make the motion. She's disclosed it, in
For
the,
7 and 8.
right.
And last time it was discussion, so it is a little bit different. Last time we said we didn't think there was a conflict to discuss it. Tonight, we're voting on it.
And the law doesn't give us great direction as to what it means to indirectly benefit Ms. Valenti. So it makes sense that she brings it up. This board can decide whether that is a conflict that she should excuse herself or not.
For the sake of safety or prudence, should she just recuse herself so no one can come back and try to do some aha thing?
We have to give her that permission.
Yeah, and it has to be a unanimous vote of the board.
Right.
Yeah, otherwise she has to vote.
I'm just asking what your opinion is with regard to the prudence of her recusing herself or not. so that we protect ourselves as a board and we protect her.
While I truly don't believe it's a conflict,
I don't either.
I mean,
but
it's-
is there some way
it's-
that someone can gotcha?
yeah, it's $10,000. You already made it clear to us that you're paid by Brighton Schools, not the senior center. But to err on caution, I'd be,
Senior Center is part of Brighton Area Schools under the community ed,
but,
but I work for two departments, so.
correct. So to err on the side of caution, and I see no harm in it letting you recuse yourself out of the vote.
Is that a motion?
I can make that motion.
And then what about number 8? Because number 8 wraps up 6 and 7 together.
We will have already voted on 7, so I think you're fine in 8.
No, we haven't done a 7.
No, I
am-
said we will have already
Oh,
voted on
right.
7. So it
Correct.
should be fine on
To
8.
recuse again.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
just, correct, because she's not voting on anything directly. If this board approves 7, then whether she votes or not votes, that wouldn't affect number 8.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
so then can I make a motion to recuse myself from the consideration of, wait a minute, I have to put my glasses on.
I already made a
Yeah, right.
motion.
You already made the
Yep,
motion.
Robin
okay.
made the
To
motion
recuse
to,
you.
Okay.
to allow you to be
Allow
recused.
you to.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask all those in favor to signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose the same?
Do I vote on that? Aye?
No.
No, okay.
No nays.
No, Yep,
Okay.
there was no nays, so it is unanimous. You are excused.
Do I have to leave the room, or can I sit
No.
in the audience? Like, what, did we ever decide that?
Depends how, tight,
sit there and
airtight you
hang
want
out.
it to be. Joe, I will seek your counsel.
You can sit at the table.
No, I think she
She's
should
gotta leave?
probably not participate. She should go into a room.
Joe?
Really?
Yeah.
As much as I hate that, Joe would prefer that legally you not be able to signal us or anything.
Silly rules.
We are dotting the i's and crossing the t's, which we always try to do.
All right.
Okay, so now we are officially on item number 7,
208.
which is the consideration of approval for general fund appropriation of funds for the fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2026, ending March 31st, 2027 for budget fund number 208.
Okay.
Any comments, questions, concerns?
One comment I will make, since we were talking about the senior center, and we've set aside $10,000 for that. There was a meeting with the school board leadership, and they are looking at different funding opportunities and different funding ways for the senior center moving forward. Because there's a grant that they get that they're not going to be getting next year. This is the last year of the grant. So they're seeing a deficit in funding there. So there is the possibility that they'll be raising their rates, the $25 a year that they're charging residents, to another number. We've made the overture that we might be open to increasing our contribution, but we're, based on the numbers they were throwing out, we're not doing 100% of the membership if they raise it up. So right now, the membership is 25 for the base membership, and that's what we're paying, and we'll continue to do that. Their fiscal year starts, I think, in July. And so I don't know what they're going to do with that, but there is a possibility that we might be coming back and asking for a budget increase for that to another number, but it won't be anywhere near what they're talking about. So we might contribute a little bit more, but we're locked in right now at the 10.
There
That's one.
was also discussion of them to go for a possible millage to cover it as
That
well.
would be next year, yeah, if they
So-
did that. So they're looking
So in
at
the
short
future,
term, yeah.
yeah.
And they might do a recreational millage next year to cover it all, and then we'll be out of it altogether, because they'll be covered. So just want to point that out to the board, that number might change at some point. Or it'll stay the same, whatever we decide we want to do with it, so.
Yeah, I don't know what the consensus was at that meeting. I was not there. Did you get a feel that that's definitely going to happen, might happen?
They are, Kelly did a great job at that meeting, by the way. I was pretty active in the conversations, and she sat back and listened all the way until the end, and then she had all of her questions, which everyone paid attention to, and it was awesome. But I got the sense that they're definitely looking at doing something to increase their membership fee in the short term, and long term, they might be going for a recreational millage, which would be small, like a half a point type thing, which would cover everything. Yeah, so. Did you get the same sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely felt like the school board members who were in attendance just don't want to subsidize the cost of that center. So they're looking at ways to help it balance.
And they're looking, it all falls under continuing ed, and there's several line items, several pockets that they're dealing with, but all of them have a component of dealing with education to the kids and so forth, and this one doesn't for the kids. I argued with them that taking care of our seniors certainly takes care of the kids because they're paying the biggest part of the bill. But anyway, so they're looking at maybe making a change with that down the line here, so just
Now,
want
I do believe our number had a bit extra because we were hoping to maybe encourage more seniors to go out.
That's another point. Right now, the last count I saw, and it's probably a little bit higher now, we have paid for 170 memberships so far, but they have on their rolls about 220 Genoa residents on their rolls, which means these are people that bought memberships with them before we made the resolution we approved it last July, I think it was, and we didn't go back retroactive. So we'll be looking at, if everything stays the same, we'll probably be looking at the 220 plus versus the 170 that we have now, so, which still keeps us under the 10,000.
Yeah, that was my thought. I still think that number is pretty strong.
It's good for now unless they change their rates and we decide
Yeah,
to
if something
participate a little
happens,
more.
we may have to revisit,
Yeah.
but I don't know that they communicated strongly enough that, yes, this is absolutely going to happen. So I guess I'm still comfortable just leaving it at the number it's at.
Right. In the park maintenance, that doesn't include, we haven't gotten anything from them on bathrooms or anything, cleaning those, have we?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Any further questions or concerns regarding the Parks and Rec?
Is Brighton Road cleanup that 77 acres?
What about it?
The 50,000.
The 50,000, is that what that is?
Yes.
Yes, yep.
He's already come back with a proposal, or this is just an estimate?
Yep. No, well, but no, that is a placeholder. We actually will be, we got selected to at least present to a subcommittee.
For a grant.
For a grant, which Kelly and I and hopefully Spencer will be doing on Wednesday. We get 5 minutes to pitch hard, so we'll put my sales expertise to work here, so we'll see what happens.
What does the grant
but-
cover?
What's that?
What are they willing to do for the grant?
Well,
don't know yet.
we're asking for, what we need, and they can do anything, they can do anywhere from 0 to the full amount. So,
But you presented a plan. This is what we want to do.
yep, and it's a 5-year plan, so.
Like what he talked about, like putting in some kind of a trail, cutting down some of that
Yeah,
awful
right now, the early
invasive-
part of the plan focuses 100% on the eradication of invasive species.
Good.
Yeah, so the first 2 years will pretty much just be
Cleaning it up.
trying to get it so that it's not a completely useless piece of land.
Yeah.
Once we see what we have, then we can get further along into discussions as to what we want to do with it. I mean, been made pretty clear, and we've expressed a pretty solid desire to keep it very, very low-key, low impact.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep, so, yeah, we will see what happens, so that number is, you know, if we get full funding, that'll go back to the general fund. You won't need to see that on there.
Nice.
I can't imagine we'll get full funding, but
Where you doing your pitch?
it's fun to hope.
Lansing?
Yes, it's in front of some subcommittee in Lansing.
It's, yeah.
Nice. Maybe we
So-
could just move it when we go to
Appropriations, I
that
think it's
thing.
an
Yeah,
appropriations
it's an
subcommittee.
appropriations subcommittee on the House side.
All right, nice.
Yeah. And there will be lots of other groups there, but we'll just
Have our
pitch the
shot.
best we can.
In my experience, a lot of these funding providers like to see some level of local match, so I think it's important that we include a little bit in the budget, just so that if there is a request for a local match, we can say that we've budgeted for
We
it.
have some skin in the game with them. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Most frequently, they want some level of local match.
Even though DNR screwed it all up to begin with, yeah, okay.
And this is the knowledge that we don't possess.
You heard it from me.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. I would entertain a motion on action item number 7.
I'll move to approve the general appropriations for fund for the fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2026, ending March 31st, 2007, for the budget number 208.
Support.
Okay, excuse me. I have a motion, I have support. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask all those in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carried. Now, Joe, if you wouldn't mind,
Want poor Jody back out?
Got a cup.
retrieve our trustee for us.
I thought she wasn't allowed to do 8 either.
What's that?
I thought she wasn't allowed to be involved with 8.
No, we would have to excuse her from that, and I'm not nearly as comfortable excusing her
We
from
don't
the
have to
entire
excuse her
budget.
for that, because we've already approved 8.
Yeah, we've now created the entire budget. This is just the formalization of it.
Oh, all right. Whatever.
I definitely think that our trustees
She's
should
fine
vote
for
on
it.
the entire budget.
Yep.
Agreed.
Joe,
Yes, I agree.
feelings to support?
Yes.
So, okay, moving on is action item number 8. Request for approval of Resolution 260302A, 2026-2027 General Appropriations Act budget for the fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2026 and ending March 31, 2027.
As I mentioned earlier, this is a state law requirement that we adopt this document. It lays out who's the chief administrative official for the budget, which is the supervisor. It indicates that public notice was done and public hearings were held. It indicates that the amount of our levy is what would be collected. It does attach the budget that was adopted by the board this evening, and puts some appropriations in there for that we can't spend outside of our budget, and that bills must be paid, with the exception for those that have service charges, interest, or late penalties.
Okay. Any questions or concerns among the board?
I'll move for approval of Resolution 260302A, 2026-2027 General Appropriations Act budget for fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2026, ending March 31st, 2027.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask Clerk Susie to do a roll call, please.
Walker.
Yes.
Reiber.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Valente.
Yes.
Ovarder.
Yes.
Susie, yes. Spire.
Yes. Okay, motion carried. Action item number 9 is the request for approval of Resolution 260302B, wages and salaries for appointed officials. If you see the memo on this, we have just given the standard 3%, and we rounded up or down, following standard rounding rules to make it an even number, because the whole 32 cents and 48 cents just seemed very awkward to me.
These are all per diem employees.
This is, yep.
Appointed.
These are the appointed, this is not the electeds.
And the Board of Review is paid hourly,
Yeah,
so
I
not
see
a per
that.
diem.
I see that right here.
Yep. So ZBA, Planning Commission. Board of Review. Any discussion? I will entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of Resolution 260302B, wages and salaries for appointed officials.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask, I would ask Clerk Susie for a roll call vote, please.
Ryber.
Yep.
Hunt.
Yes.
Valenti.
Yes.
O'Varder.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Susie, yes. Spire.
Yes. Motion carries. Moving on to action item number 10, which is the request for approval of Resolution 260302C, salaries for elected officials. Questions or concerns? Exact same format as used for the appointeds. Seeing none, I would entertain motions.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 260302C, salaries for elected officials.
Okay, I have a motion. I have second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask Clerk Susie for a roll call, please.
Valenti.
Yes.
O'Varder.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Ryber.
No.
Hunt.
Yes.
Susie, yes. Spire.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion carries. Moving on to action item number 11 is the request for approval of a renewal of the Uniform Video Service Local Franchise Agreement with DirecTV LLC, formerly AT&T, with an annual video service provider franchise fee of 5% and a public education and government, PEG, access fee of 2% for an additional 10-year term.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a renewal of an existing agreement, and I am pleased to tell you that we've worked with our telecommunications attorney and DirecTV to not only get the 5% franchise fee, but also to get a 2% PEG fee. That is not something that we previously collected from them, but we have started asking for that and receiving it from other vendors. And just of note on that, if you look at the budget for the PEG fees, which was a new line item in our budget last year, we budgeted for around 15,000, and we've gotten 75,000 this year in PEG fees alone. So we're working with the telecommunications attorney for how we can best use that money to improve the experience for residents participating in our meetings remotely.
That's going to hopefully be one of the big ones. And I know you've asked before, Bill, what Mike Watsa does. This is the direct result of Mike Watsa. Bloom Sluggett.
What is it?
Bloom Sluggett, PC, I believe. But yes, that is, when you see a bill for the law firm Bloom Sluggett, that is this gentleman.
Ah, okay.
Yep. And his name is Mike Watsa.
Is this a township dedicated cable channel? I thought at one point we were talking about this like a
That is one thing that you can do. You can require, now granted, be hard to do it with DirecTV, but with cable, we could require Comcast to give us a channel. However, we'd have to program it with content, and that would probably be difficult.
Well, and the
Run
biggest,
all the time.
Yeah, you have to run it 24/7.
and the biggest problem with Genoa Township is so much of the township doesn't have cable TV. You know, a city can do it easier because they have the coverage. We do not.
And that is sort of why we've looked into using those funds to improve the broadcast of all of our meetings. Because that is what the purpose of it is to help the residents participate in governance or be educated on governance. So we're working with Mike to determine exactly what the PEG funds can and cannot be used for. So at this time, if
So
there's.
this is increasing the PEG fee from 0 to 2%?
Correct.
Correct.
Renewing their agreement and getting a 2% PEG fee from them.
That's the magic word, thank you.
So you need approval of this, correct?
Oh,
Yes, I do.
yep, we need a motion.
I move to approve the renewal of Uniform Video Service Local Franchise Agreement with DirecTV LLC, formerly AT&T, with an annual revenue service provider franchise fee of 5% and a public education and government PEG access fee of 2% for a 10-year term.
I'll second it.
Yeah, I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion?
Is 10-year a standard term?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Seeing none after that, I would ask all of those in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carries. With that, I would move on to the board comments portion of the meeting. Any board comments? Anybody have anything from their boards that they serve on to report back to us, please?
I got something regarding a press conference from last week.
Excellent.
So last week, myself, Trustee Valenti, and Township Manager Kelly Van Martyr joined SEMCOG and partner organizations, the Michigan Municipal League and Michigan Township Association, at a press conference in bipartisan opposition to statewide zoning preemption legislation introduced in the Michigan House of Representatives. House Bills 5529 through 5532, along with the related proposed legislation, if enacted, would strip locally elected officials of our decision-making authority, dismiss years of community planning work, and amount to a clear override from Lansing on local voices and voter-backed decisions. Along with our group at the press conference, over 1,500 locally elected officials across the state have signed on to a letter of opposition. Our House representative for Genoa Charter Township is Jennifer Conlon, and I'm encouraging my constituents to reach out to her in opposition of these proposed bills. Her email is jenniferconlon@house.mi.gov, and the phone number to reach her office is 517-373-7557. That's all I got.
I will just point out that Representative Conlon did stop in personally and told me that she was against these bills. However, I did ask, does it help support you to say no if we continue to write these letters expressing our opposition? And she responded that yes. You know, so it's not like we're bombarding her with something she doesn't want. If we have strong feelings one way or another, the best way we can get those out there is to express those to our representative in writing or email form.
So she told you that she is in opposition of these?
She did say that.
Okay, good. I didn't know that.
Yeah. We're going to keep an eye on that.
We need to. They could
But
really,
yes, she
do
stopped by personally to express
the
that.
entire state a disservice.
Yep. So let's hope that there are many more representatives that feel the same way. This is a bipartisan collection of bills. There is a Republican that introduced some of these as well. But I understand the need to address affordable housing, attainable housing and that sort of thing, but taking the power away from the people that are closest to hopefully making it happen is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea.
All the hard work that we've been doing with regard to the master plan revision would just be crumpled up and thrown in the trash. That's not cool.
I do encourage the reading of these proposed bills. There are some very grim language.
It'll blow your mind.
Yeah. So.
I just want to point out for those last-minute people, today was the last day to pay 25 taxes here at the township. If anyone's watching and panicking, you can pay them online tonight until midnight with a credit card or electronic check. Or you can drive up here and throw it in the drop box, and if it's in the box tomorrow morning, you'll get a stamp paid receipt in the mail. So as after tonight, all payments go to Livingston County.
Are most people probably paid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? Nice.
It was a busy day today at the office, let me tell you.
Right down to the wire. Yeah?
All of my fellow procrastinators.
As of Friday, summer taxes were 98% collected, winter was 90. And we did a ton of credit card and electronic checks over the weekend, and today's walk-ins, we've got to be pretty high on winter as well now.
Wow. Nice. Good, good.
And just to throw a little kudos their way, the staff in the treasurer's department has this down to a well-oiled machine. They do a phenomenal job collecting the payments, screening customers, getting things posted. I'm very impressed every year with how well your staff manage the payment of taxes here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I have to admit, everybody was very jovial, and that's pretty good accomplishment, given that you are handing over a large chunk of money.
People paying the tax.
Yes, so.
Lots of comments that we may or may not have heard before.
Okay, any further, no?
I have two. So in our training session with the Livingston County Sheriff's Department, thanks Rick and Kelly for saving. Kelly was here late, so she wasn't here, but she worked through the whole thing. But that was for the Stop the Bleed. And I will tell you, probably the first hour of it was actually, I guess, how you started bleeding, because it was shooter events. It was about the first hour of it. And then the second half of the class was really focused on applying a tourniquet properly, because they had done some statistics and said, like, if you were to go to any kind of war, like World War II or the Vietnam War, the number one fatality was just blood loss. Somebody get injured and just bleed out. So it was important that they showed us how to properly apply a tourniquet, which for us, just run-of-the-mill citizens, it's either direct pressure or a tourniquet. That's how we're going to do it. So there were 9 of us actually that attended the training, and they recommended a certain don't buy tourniquets off of Amazon, because they'll snap, they'll break.
Good to know.
So get yourself a high quality. Deb, I can't remember what the name of the company was, but
I don't know, you could look up like tactical gear or something.
yeah, get something made in USA, and yeah. But that was very interesting. And then Amy Ruthig sent out an email today. She hasn't put out a packet yet, but there is going to be this next week for the Planning Commission. There's going to be a meeting. She wasn't going to hold it, but she changed her mind. She's got a few things to discuss. There's not going to be any kind of votes for it. But she says, I would like to proceed with holding the meeting for discussion purposes only regarding the master plan survey results, a potential data center ordinance, a food truck ordinance, and agritourism. So she says that packet will be prepared and distributed on Thursday.
Excellent. I'm also
Wasn't gonna
happy.
have one, but didn't have one.
Okay, I'm happy to report. After the joint meeting where we viewed the master plan results, there was a lot of feedback among the board members that we weren't, the presentation did not knock our socks off. And some of the information was not clearly able to be understood. So I reached out to Giffords and expressed that sentiment. And today, Kelly, Amy, Rick, and I had a meeting with Giffords. And in your packet for that Planning Commission meeting, they assure me they will have a presentation with straight percentage answers. It got very confusing on how they calculated this weighted average, and it was just very hard to follow. So it was very hard for the Planning Commission to even try to make any sort of recommendation as to how they want to proceed moving forward.
So the better presentation that's going to be in the Planning Commission packet will be available online.
Yeah,
for
so,
all of us, right?
everybody will be able to see it first thing in the packet. And then, yes, we will get it into a link and get it up on the website. We may, I've actually asked for a little more, but on the short time frame, we're just getting a straight percentage. I've asked for maybe a little more of like a heat chart, trying to determine if either location or age group, and we narrowed it to 3 age groups, just to see if there was a wild swing among one of those that may or may not have affected the total percentage. If it wasn't, or if it didn't, then there's not really any reason to weight the average. Like if all of them were pretty much the same or within a few percent, you just don't need to weight it by that. But this will narrow down on which questions may have had some significant variation by one of those 2 characteristics. I think those are the 2 biggest characteristics that are covered within the survey. That will be coming, and then the Planning Commission will see that as well, and we're hoping that will enable them to have proper guidance on what they want to do moving forward, how they want to proceed processing this information. So that was
Good.
I apologize to the people. I was a little underwhelmed by that presentation, but I still think that the survey was excellent. The response was great. And I think that we have data that will be very helpful in helping us, update the master plan. We just need to present it in a
Where we can
clearer,
understand it.
yeah, yeah, just a little, simple for us.
I wonder what made
Simple
them
for us.
think that we'd be able to get that.
What's that?
Why did they think that was an acceptable way to present that?
Probably because you work with numbers,
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You're close to the data, you
Yellow
see
line was
it.
bigger than the blue one.
Well, you see it when you're working with data like that all the time, but it's how other people see your data.
Right.
Whatever. I'm glad that you said something. That's nice. So, I had a HAPR meeting, and they're gonna be glad about this warm weather, because they've really had to do a lot of plowing over there. All those parking lots, all the time, like here, right?
Yep.
And I guess their summer programs are almost sold out with kids, their summer like daycare camp, kind of stuff like that. It's hugely popular, so good for them, right? And, the mayor of Howell, the city of Howell, is on my HAPR board too. And he said they're hopeful to get that fire and ice thing going, but I don't know. It's been a tough go.
Oh, interesting.
I know, but they want to be able to do events in it in the summertime, because it'll be like a pavilion, right, enclosed, so they're hopeful.
Okay, good. Well, we wish them luck on that.
Yes.
Lastly, maybe not lastly, I encourage everybody to download the My Genoa app. It's a great way to get updates on township business.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
If I may,
Yes.
there was a comment that Ms. Beatty made about the Merlot property and the 250 first 300 gallons. I thought I did a good job of explaining that last week, our last meeting, but just in case I didn't, what happened there was the original application from that applicant was for a 250 gallon. That went through a number of different meetings at the Planning Commission, and they changed it from the first meeting to the second meeting to a 300 gallon tank, but the language on the agenda was not corrected to reflect that. But if you were to have looked in the packet itself that both the Planning Commission and the Township Board reviewed, the plans showed 300, the planner's review letter said 300, the engineer's letter, the fire department letter said 300. So all of the information in the packet said 300. The agenda itself, which then got duplicated in the minutes, kept that 250. Was just an error that we didn't update the gallon size when the applicant changed it between their first and second meeting.
And the minutes aren't an exact play-by-play. We actually addressed that a little bit with the fact that a 300 is a standard size. A 250 literally would be a custom tank. You would bump down to a 240, but even those are very, very hard to come across, so.
Okay.
Everybody, so that's, and I saw drawings from Merlot 250, drawings side by side.
The first version was 250. The second one was 300. Yes. So it was on the original set of plans that they submitted, and then they changed it to 350 when they found out that 250 wasn't a standard size. Yep,
And it's still within the ordinance.
correct.
Yeah, we knew that.
Okay. With that, I would entertain, well, actually, go ahead, please step up to the microphone. We'll have this, it's not really a call to the public.
Oh, not really. I'm Jim Carpenter, 4715 Still Meadow. Referencing the budget again, I don't expect any changes to this budget. I mean, this is pretty well settled. But what I would like to say in the future, I've mentioned it before, maybe a town hall or something like that, be proud of the budget that we're submitting. You know, you get a lot of questions here that I didn't know the answer to. Rick, you said wage to salary is only 14%. Well, I didn't know that, you know. It'd be very easy to present little pie charts that say, hey, this is how our budget is created. This is where we spend our money, so that people understand how that's done. For Kelly, you know, and maybe I'm just missing it, where's an org chart? I mean, how many people do we have? What are their titles? What do they do? Who reports to who? How long have they been here? You know, those type of things make it very easy then for the lay people to understand what's going on and how these things are developed. Then when it comes to the actual, this is one of these type of things that I hesitate to say it, because it seems like you're trying to hide some things by breaking it down into different deals. Like a longevity bonus, a cost of living bonus. You know, I worked for 50 years. I never got any of those, never once. And in the real world, it's always been based on merit. So to me, we need to look at more of a private sector type of way of paying people. And maybe that means, based on some of the things we have, we may have to give them 1 year a bigger raise. But really, everything should be done from a salary standpoint based on the merit. What job do they do? Now, some of the other things I don't really like. I think 10% on a 401k match is ridiculous. I mean, there's no place in the real world that has that good of a bonus to their 401k. And then I'd ask the question, is there still a pension that's involved with this too? I don't know that answer, if we have pensions here or not. So
there are no pensions.
No pensions, okay. So 401k is fine. 10% to me seems excessive. I don't like I say, I don't like a longevity bonus. If somebody's been here, you know, you guys, it makes me smile. You say, well, they've been here for 24 years. If we don't give them this, they'll leave. Well, guess what? They've been here 24 years. They're not going to leave, all right? That's just not going to happen. And in the real world, they have always told us is that nobody leaves because of salary. Never. In the private sector. Always it's based on the total package, and I don't mean financial package, it's how you like your boss, how do you like your job, you know, the commute time. There's lots of different things that go in that, and very rarely do you see people leave just because they can make a few extra bucks someplace else. So I'm not saying
Definitely
that,
industry dependent, I will say that. That's definitely industry dependent.
Yeah,
I am very familiar with people saying, I loved it here, everything was great, it was spectacular. The guy down the street's giving me $3 an hour more, I'm out of here, peace.
And that's good to say, but then if I look at the org chart that says everybody's been here 25 years, then I'd say, well, that's not really true. So, you know, that's some of the information and the openness to us, that's what you guys ran on, openness and transparency, to let us see how all this is developed. I think then you'll get less kickback from people that say, this sucks, or you're doing this wrong, or whatever, because we understand it better. Like I say, I don't know, Kelly, is there an org chart online?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Okay, let's say, I didn't know that, if there is or not.
That's it.
Well,
The budget. When was this first
December 1st was the first time. And I do feel we've covered it quite a bit, and we've tried to explain as much as possible. I've answered a number of emails.
We have like an open door policy. It's been presented since December 1st for public review. We allow people, we encourage people to contact the office staff and ask any questions they've got. you say, oh, you said you ran on transparency. It doesn't get much more transparent than that.
That's kind of what I'm indicating, right? What you're saying is kind of the argument we had a year ago about push and pull, right, for notification, and we came up with my Genoa deal so that we were pushing information out instead of pulling it. The information was always there, but you had to go get it. And I'm kind of saying the same thing here. We have the budget discussions, and when you have them here, we're not allowed to give feedback. I mean, you're being gracious to let us do it now, but it's not a real understanding of what's going on. And again, I'm not suggesting that anybody is overpaid. I think the way we're doing some things is not really, it's not, to me, it's not real kosher. But allowing that feedback to you, again, like I've said before, you should be proud of it, right? You should be able to stand up here in a discussion with 50 people in here if we show up and say, this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it. And then they can give you feedback, and at least you've then said, I've given everything I can to do that. But you know, when you guys are doing your discussions, it's not us doing discussions, right? It's just you guys. So, you know, it's just a suggestion for next year. Just you know, maybe kind of, you know, make it a little bit more free spirited, more open talk about it, and defend if you have to, and there might be cases where it's okay. You know, we don't have a problem with that. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Can I make a comment in response to that?
Absolutely.
No, you're good. I hear a lot of comments and questions here, and it's frustrating for me too not to be able to answer those. You know, you pay for me to work in this building. You pay for me to represent you. We have a great team here of staff. The elected officials have office hours here. I love sitting down with residents and going over things and answering those questions. And I would just encourage folks that have those questions, that don't understand it and want to communicate with staff, because we're more than happy to go through things and answer your questions.
The problem with that, Kelly, is that, yeah, a lot of these people here, we're all retired, so we can do those type of things. But for the vast majority of people who are still working, your office hours correspond with their office hours. So that opportunity is never there. You know, that's why I'm saying have this other type of activity so that more people maybe can get involved. Because the whole idea, right, every one of these meetings should be full of people. We don't have.
You should.
Right? I mean, it's full that, you know, that's the type of thing that maybe can draw more people in. More involvement with, you know, citizen government is good.
Absolutely. I don't disagree.
And just to summarize, I didn't make you come back up and speak, but to summarize for those at home, Jim was just explaining that our office hours don't necessarily coincide with, you know, people's working schedules, and I can appreciate that. We've had several town halls this year, so I mean, it's a good idea, and we will absolutely look into it for next year. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I think I'm speechless for once in my life. I was on the finance committee for Howell Schools, and we had a budget that was, this recommended, but these are all figures that are floating. And the floating thing is what really scares me, okay? Because at some point, that floating's gonna stop, and then we're gonna pay the piper. I mean, I realize that everybody should be paid a decent wage, and there should be a decent package, but what you're giving to people is unheard of. My husband's been a machinist for 50 years. He doesn't get a longevity bonus. He doesn't get 10% put into his 401k without having to match or produce something. He doesn't get, if we don't pay the insurance, if he didn't pay $250 a week for me, we wouldn't have it. If we don't take it, we get nothing. This is based on, your budget comes from us. It comes from our tax dollars and maybe other ways, obviously, yes. But what you don't understand is there's a limit. The money tree isn't endless. And someone pays the price for it eventually. There's people that are probably having trouble paying their taxes, and they're getting a piece of paper that tells them, in essence, there's no excuse that you can give me that you're not going to pay the number that we name. And when I see things like this, where we're giving these larger-than-life packages to people, and I'm not saying you don't deserve it. It's not a personal attack. This is a public budget that is funded by people, by us, and you are our employees, in essence, And we have a right to stand up and say, hey, what's going on here? This is too much. This is what they call a golden parachute, where there's nothing that is not covered, no umbrella of no benefit that you don't receive, and that's great. I don't begrudge people making a decent wage and having these benefits, but they're excessive. They are absolutely excessive, and that's the reason I got into politics, because we had people being paid that didn't even work for the district anymore. We're going to start running into problems where you're going to have to get bonds, you're going to have to get other ways to bring money in when there's not enough coming in because our budget is too high, or our budget is floating and, oh, those figures just came in, and guess what? I don't know anyone who gets these kind of benefits, and I don't care how many years they've had the job, and I'll tell you, my husband had the same job for many, many years and didn't even get a quarter of the things that you get. I'm not saying it because I'm mad that I didn't get it. I'm saying this is not a standard practice, and this is not standard for anybody. And even if you work in politics or you work in this type of a job, there should be somewhat of you're a servant to the people. I didn't even expect to get paid. I was like, well, I'll probably get a little bit for the meetings, but the whole point is to stand and represent the people, not yourself, but the people that are paying you. And the fact that we're paying an attorney to sit here at every single meeting, how much are we paying him? We have a right to know. I don't understand why that can't be answered. You guys should not have to have him correcting you constantly.
Thank you, Deb.
That's a cost to us. So why is there a problem telling that what the cost to us is? Because I'd like to know, because I paid my taxes early and in cash, because I wanted to make sure they were paid, and I'd like to know where they're going.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
So you're not going to answer the question? You're refusing?
I may, but.
You are or you aren't
your
refusing to
time is
answer
up.
it? Sir?
So your time is up.
I know, but I'm asking you to answer the question, yes or no. You're refusing to answer it, or you will?
Yeah, well, if you'll let me talk.
Okay. I'm more than happy to.
Okay, thank you.
I can't wait.
Due to consistent outside emails, comments, that sort of thing, surrounding previous events that happened, one of which you were involved in, we determined that it was best to have our attorney here. Anytime we have something that is complicated, regarding locking into anything financial, bonds, that sort of thing, we're absolutely going to have our attorney here to advise us on the legalities. With the budget this evening and Jody, I am a little more comfortable knowing that we have done that properly. The other thing is the unsustainable comment. I assume we know that we've added just under $500,000 to the general fund. So even with the quote unquote excessive pay, which I don't see existing, we are running more than a positive model. This isn't Howell Schools back in the day.
We also have the lowest millage in the area. I mean, our taxes are not high here. It's the lowest millage of all the towns around here.
And we have no separate millages for roads. There's a group that has all the millages broken down, and we're one of the only townships that has no extra millage. We do everything with our base millage, which is .757? 7573 mills, which is among the lowest. So, okay. With that,
I would move to adjourn.
okay, I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.